Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell you the truth about silver. Today is Sunday, the 20th of November 2016, and we're covering the implications of Italy's forthcoming constitutional referendum and ask the question, could it result in the destruction of the EU? Firstly, we need to provide some background. A constitutional referendum is planned to be held in Italy on Sunday the 4th of December 2016. Voters are to be asked whether they approve of amending the Italian constitution to reform the appointment and powers of its parliament, as well as the partition of powers of state, regions, and administrative entities. The constitutional bill proposed by Prime Minister Matteo Renzi and his centre-left Democratic Party in 2014 was approved by an absolute majority of the MPs in both houses of the Italian Parliament. This will be the third constitutional referendum in the history of the Italian Republic. The other two were in 2001 and 2006. Should the electors approve the bill, it would achieve the most extensive constitutional reform in Italy since the end of the monarchy, not only influencing the organisation of the parliament, but also improving, according to its proponents, on the poor government stability of the country. Opposition parties have harshly criticised the bill, claiming that it is badly written and that it will make the government too powerful. Italy has what may be defined as a perfect bicameral system, meaning its two chambers have the same powers as each other. This often leads to political gridlocks and slow decision-making, and Mr. Renzi is now calling to reduce the Senate's power, reducing it from a chamber of 315 directly elected politicians and 6 lifetime appointees to smaller Senate of regions. The new Senate would have just 100 seats, comprising 74 regional councillors, 21 mayors, and 5 presidential nominees, with the latter serving for 7 years rather than for life. Mr. Renzi's reform will tip the balance of power towards the Chamber of Deputies, Italy's equivalent to the House of Commons. The Senate will retain its veto on constitutional matters, but the deputies will have the final say on everyday bills. The Senate will also be able to examine bills if a third of its members wish to do so, although its suggestions will not be binding. Both chambers have already voted in favour of the changes, but the measures did not reach the required 2/3 majority to force the legislation through, and therefore a referendum has been called. Okay, we hear you ask, what has this got to do with the EU and its possible destruction? Well, pro-EU Prime Minister Matteo Renzi has promised to resign if the referendum fails, putting both his career and Italy's status in the EU at risk. He is quoted as saying, quote, "If I have to stay on in Parliament and do what everyone else has done before me, that is, to scrape by and just float there, that does not suit me," unquote. The referendum could spark political and economic chaos as the country struggles to deal with its ongoing banking crisis. Critics say that by quitting, the PM could make way for the Eurosceptic five-star movement MS5 to gain power. The party, founded by comic Beppe Grillo, has pledged to call another referendum if it gets into office, this time on pulling out of the euro. Whilst we have all learned with Brexit and Trump's victory that polls should not be believed, the latest ones are showing that the referendum proposal is likely to be rejected by a majority of between 5 and 7 points. Bookmakers are providing odds of 75% chance of a rejection. So, what is likely to happen if the referendum is rejected and the Prime Minister resigns? Well, we have no doubt that the euro will take a hit initially, and the price of gold and silver will rise in terms of euros. There will be some political instability as the fear of a new Italian government coming to power in the new year, which will not be favourable to the EU project. However, the aftermath of the Trump victory teaches us not to be too alarmist. If the euro falls in value, then where is the hot money likely to go? Yes, the US dollar, which will strengthen even further and potentially weaken gold and silver prices, at least initially. So for those of our listeners who are still stacking, the 5th of December could prove to be a very favourable buying day for precious metals. Of course, the other issue could be that European stock markets would open significantly down, with Wall Street following suit, and monies moving into the precious metals, causing their prices to rise. So as the old saying goes, you pays your money and takes your choice. But either way, there will, in our opinion, be an immediate reaction. Finally, as to the question, will a no vote lead to the destruction of the EU? We believe no. But it is yet another chink in its armour, another loose brick in a slowly crumbling wall. It won't be devastating, but the EU could well do without such a result. We hope you have found this video interesting and informative, and if so, please give it a thumb up and share it on Twitter. Also, kindly visit our website at illuminatisilver.com, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe as a free member for regular email updates and offers. Our Facebook page, which is updated daily, can be found at facebook.com/illuminatisilver. Disclaimer. Illuminati silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice and merely represent the personal views of its owners.